The fall of a giant, how Germany lost to Paraguay on penalties. Four-time world champions. One of the scariest football nations the sport has ever seen. A squad packed with stars from Arsenal, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, and Newcastle. A country famous, more than anything else, for never missing penalties. Germany were genuine title contenders at this World Cup, the kind of team you'd pencil in for at least the quarterfinals before a ball was even kicked. And last night, they were knocked out by Paraguay, a team ranked 34th in the world. A team that had been thrashed 2-0 by the United States barely 2 weeks earlier. And here's the part that really messes with your head: Germany lost on penalties. The nation that never loses shootouts lost a shootout. So what actually happened? How does a giant like this fall to a team like that? Let's break it all down, piece by piece. Why this result is so shocking. First, you need to understand just how unusual this result really is. This isn't simply a big team losing to a small team. That happens in football all the time. This is something else entirely, because for most of football history, this specific kind of collapse just didn't happen to Germany. Other nations built entire footballing identities around penalty heartbreak. England, for decades, became almost synonymous with shootout pain, a national trauma replayed every tournament. But Germany were never that team. Germany were the ones dishing out the pain, not absorbing it. Before last night, Germany had appeared in several World Cup shootouts and won every single one. They had scored 15 straight penalties in World Cup shootout history, 15 in a row, without a single miss, since 1982. That's more than 4 decades of cold, machine-like precision from the penalty spot. Losing a shootout was the one specific footballing nightmare that seemed to happen to everybody except Germany. Until last night. A slow, frustrating night. Now let's talk about the actual match, because for long stretches it was a slow, painful watch for German fans. For the first 42 minutes, almost nothing happened, two teams cautiously sizing each other up, neither willing to commit numbers forward. Then Paraguay made the first real move of the night. After Germany cleared a corner, Miguel Almiron picked up the loose ball and slipped a sharp reverse pass to the overlapping Matias Galarza. His first-time cross found the head of Julio Enciso, and just like that, Paraguay were 1-0 up. The underdogs were ahead. And here's a stat that captures just how strange that first half really was: Germany had 78% of the possession and didn't register a single shot on target. Think about that for a second. Nearly 4/5 of the ball against a team ranked 34th in the world, and they couldn't even force a save out of the goalkeeper. They went into halftime a goal down, having dominated territory and possession while creating absolutely nothing. In many ways, that one half of football summed up Germany's entire tournament. To their credit, they came out with more purpose after the break. 9 minutes into the second half, a sharp early cross from Liverpool's Florian Wirtz was flicked on by Arsenal's Kai Havertz, and Germany were level at 1-1. At that point, most people watching around the world relaxed a little and assumed things would return to the expected script. The giant had woken up. Surely the winner was coming. Surely Paraguay would eventually be worn down by wave after wave of German pressure. Except the winner never arrived. The controversial VAR call. This is where the real controversy kicks in, because Germany actually believed they'd scored the winner. Jonathan Tah rose above the Paraguayan defense and powered a header into the net from a corner, the go-ahead goal, the one that would have sent Germany through to the next round. Then VAR stepped in. The video assistant referee flagged a tangle between Germany's Waldemar Anton and the Paraguay goalkeeper inside the box, called it a foul, and sent the referee to review the pitchside monitor. After watching it back, the referee agreed. The goal was disallowed, ruled out for what many observers called an extremely soft foul call. German football fans erupted in frustration, and they weren't alone. Even Jurgen Klopp, the former Liverpool manager, publicly criticized the decision, pointing out that this exact kind of physical contact at a corner, players jostling for position, gets allowed constantly in the Premier League, including, notably, for eventual Champions League winner Arsenal. His point was simple and pointed: the standard isn't consistent. What gets waved away every single weekend in England was enough to wipe out Germany's World Cup winner. Whether or not you personally think it was the correct call, it's yet another entry in this tournament's growing pile of VAR decisions where nobody seems entirely sure what the actual standard even is anymore. Germany's own failures. But, and this matters, because we should always try to be fair, Germany can't pin everything that followed on the referee. That disallowed goal only ended up mattering because Germany couldn't find a way to finish the job themselves in open play. Paraguay defended like absolute warriors for the rest of the match. Their center-backs, José Canal and Gustavo Gomez, headed away wave after wave of German attacks, repeatedly winning aerial duels despite giving away significant height to their German opponents. Germany kept whipping in cross after cross. Paraguay just kept calmly heading them clear. As Germany's own head coach admitted afterward, quite simply, Paraguay defended really well. And so it went to penalties, the one specific arena on the planet where Germany were supposed to be untouchable. Instead, it turned into a chaotic, nerve-shredding mess for both sides. Leroy Sane stepped up first for Germany, the man who so often delivers in big moments for Arsenal. Paraguay's goalkeeper, Orlando Gil, guessed correctly and saved it. It was Germany's first missed shootout penalty in a World Cup since 1982. That legendary 15-penalty streak, gone in an instant. Both teams traded successful spot kicks after that. Then Gil made another crucial save, this time denying Nick Woltmade, giving Paraguay two separate chances to win the shootout outright. And remarkably, you could sense that even Paraguay couldn't quite believe how this was unfolding, because they missed both of those golden chances too. Antonio Sanabria dragged his effort wide. Then the legendary Manuel Neuer, Germany's veteran goalkeeper, dove to his left and produced a brilliant save. Somehow, against the run of play, Germany were still alive. It went to sudden death. And up stepped Jonathan Tah, the very same man whose header had been controversially disallowed just moments earlier, to take the single biggest kick of his career. He blasted it well over the crossbar. That left José Canal with the opportunity to send Germany home for good. He didn't hesitate. He smashed it into the top corner. It was over. Paraguay, ranked 34th in the world, freshly humiliated 2-0 by the United States only 2 weeks before, had just knocked four-time World Cup champions Germany out of the tournament on penalties. What's really going on with Germany? So what actually happened here? Let's take this seriously, because the real explanation is bigger, and considerably more uncomfortable for German football, than one bad refereeing decision or one unlucky night. The uncomfortable truth is this: Germany simply aren't the footballing giants they used to be. Not even close. Consider the full picture. When Germany won the World Cup in 2014, famously dismantling Brazil 7-1 along the way in one of the sport's most stunning results ever, they were, without question, the #1 football nation on the planet. They had finished on the World Cup podium more times than any country in history. They were the undisputed gold standard of international football. Since that day, it has been a slow-motion collapse. They crashed out at the group stage in 2018. They crashed out at the group stage again in 2022. And now, in this tournament, they've been eliminated in the round of 32. That's 3 consecutive tournament disasters in a row. Germany's own head coach, Julian Nagelsmann, said as much himself afterward, with a fairly blank, resigned stare: this marks the 3rd elimination in a row, and that means, in his own words, they're simply not part of the top teams in world football anymore. Let that sink in for a moment. The head coach of Germany, openly, publicly acknowledging that his country is no longer one of football's elite nations. And the numbers back him up completely. Before that 2014 final, Germany had won roughly 75% of every World Cup match they'd ever played across their entire history. Since that triumph, they've won just 40% of their World Cup matches. They haven't been ranked higher than 9th in the world since 2018, and after this latest exit, they'll likely drop even further down the rankings. This isn't bad luck striking once. It's a clear, sustained trend now stretching across 12 full years. The players themselves seem to sense it too. A visibly devastated Havertz all but apologized to the country after the match. In his words, this was his 2nd World Cup, and Germany have now failed at both. He said they played good football, but that something was always missing across the tournament, and it was the same story again today. Something always missing. That phrase might be the single best way to describe modern Germany. A team stacked with genuinely talented names from Europe's biggest, richest clubs, that somehow, consistently, adds up to less than the sum of its individual parts. Now compare that to Paraguay, a squad made up mostly of players who aren't considered good enough for Europe's biggest leagues, playing their club football instead in Argentina, Brazil, and the United States. A team that simply outfought, outdefended, and outlasted Germany's nerve when it mattered most, on the biggest stage in the sport. The bigger story of this World Cup. So maybe this is really the bigger story of this entire World Cup, isn't it? The giants keep falling, and the underdogs keep rising to meet them. Uruguay gone at the group stage. The Netherlands eliminated on the very same night as Germany. And now the 4-time champions themselves, beaten on penalties by a team almost nobody outside Paraguay gave a realistic chance. The old order of international football is visibly cracking in front of our eyes. And nobody is feeling that crack harder right now than Germany, a nation that used to be the team every other country genuinely feared walking into a tournament, now reduced instead to this World Cup's most talked about cautionary tale. So here's the real question worth sitting with: Was this a robbery by VAR? Or did Germany simply prove, once and for all, that they're no longer among football's elite? What's your verdict on the fall of the Giants? Because something tells me Germany won't be the last traditional powerhouse to go down this way before this tournament is finished.